Okay, hello, this is Yazan, and we're going to talk about two database functions in this video. And database functions in Excel is really neat features or feature and can be really used in many situations. The reason that why we would use a database function is a lot of times if you use conditional functions, you have to go back and start changing the conditions inside those functions to be reflected on the output. Database functions allow you to have the criteria in cells, so you can really input those values um, on the fly and then have them reflected um, on the results. So this one here, this is a dsum example, and you can see that we have two portions, and actually I'm gonna leave a space between them. Okay, now let's clear the format in this one. It's kind of, we have a gap. So here we have two portions, right? We have the upper part where we're going to input the values that are going to become a kind of a criteria, the condition, right? But we're going to input that in the cells, not in the function per se. The other part is the database, which is the chunk of data that we're going to apply those conditions on. And by applying those conditions on, we're going to get the output that we're looking for, right? So here, for example, it asks you the total profit from apple trees. So how would I do that using database functions? So total, we're gonna use the dsum. Of course, if you wanna look for it, you can start typing in the insert function window, dsum, and gonna bring it for you. The definition of this function from Excel, it tells you that adds the number in the field, column, or records in the database that match the conditions you specify. So it's really a different version of the conditional functions, right? There's still some condition. It's different than the regular sum, where you can't really apply a condition or criteria. So we're going to use that. From the function argument window, you can see that we have three different arguments. The first part is the database. So the database is that chunk of data that we are looking to apply those conditions on. So what we can do is I'm going to just select this portion. And then the second part going to be the field, right? Or the fields that I'm trying to apply this to. So I'm gonna select, I'm sorry. So the criteria is, let's delete this. Oops. Okay, so the criteria is where what you want to apply, right? Is where are the cells that are gonna hold those conditions? So over here, what we're gonna do is these three, the first three rows are the ones that contain that value, those conditions, contain those conditions that I want to apply. But I only want to pick the trees. So I pick the first two. Why? The first one will be a header, right? So this is the field that I want to filter upon, and then the apple is the value of filtration, right? So you can see that the first row almost matches the first row in my database, or the cell, the data portion that I'm applying those conditional functions on. So this is a must. They have to match. So I have to select header, and then I have to select the cell that will hold a value. And then the field is it's kind of, you tell them the function is what is the field that you're gonna actually apply the condition to, and it will be this part. So this is the field, this is column A. So we have tree here, and I want to pick apples only. So this is what I did. A1 has the column, or the column field, or the column title, let's call it. And then the criteria is the column and the value that I am filtering according to. And I hit OK. Did not get what I want. Okay, so here I think I have to type this. So here, tree. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. So here is the field that we are applying the condition to, right? So what this function did is went to the trees and added the apples together with their text, so they're not gonna really hold anything. So it's not A1, it's the profits. This is the field that I am applying the function to. And the profit is the field that contains numbers. Okay, so 225, this is the correct answer. Again, let's do this again. The total profit from apple trees with a height between 10 and 16. Okay, so I know it's the dsum function, so let's insert the dsum again. The database, this is my database, not gonna change here. And the field is the field that I am applying the function on. So I'm looking for the total profit. So I want profit. And then the criteria is what I'm trying to match. So what I'm trying to match is I want apple trees that their height is greater than 10 and they're less than 16. This is why I have height twice. So this one, it will take the first one and say, okay, so I want to filter trees that are apples only, and then I will look at the ones that their height above 10, but since I included height again, it's gonna apply the condition again and say, okay, and the height should be less than 16. Okay, and you can see that Excel will give you the value, which is 75. All right, for the D count, same idea again. Instead of using a conditional sum, we're using a conditional count. So over here, what we're gonna do is D count, and the D count, the definition, or some little bit explanation about the function, counts the cell containing numbers of records and database that matches the condition you specify. Okay, so the first part is the database. This is my database. Okay, and if I want to include like a space, let's try and include a space just not to confuse you. So this chunk over here, this part over here, this cell range is the database where I'm going to apply my condition on. And this chunk, this part over here, this cell range, is where I'm going to put the conditions. And you can see that the header matches the header of the database. It has to. And then I can apply the values. I can put the values I want over here. Okay, so here it asks you find apple trees between a height of 10, so greater than 10, and 16, less than 16. So, and it asks you how many of those age fields contains numbers. It just kind of to explain a little bit. Right, so let's do it again. So this is where I'm going to put my formula, and I'm going to put the D count. The database will be this portion, and the field is the field that I'm applying my the count function on. And remember that the count will count the text only. And then, for example, if I want to do it in the age, right? So if I want to count this part, and then the criteria would be apple trees greater than 10 or less than 16. It only will count one for me. Is this true? Let's see. So here we have apple, here we have apple, here we have apple, right? Let's highlight. Oops, I think I chose the wrong color. Apple, apple, apple. Okay. Greater than 10, less than 16, no, doesn't apply, so I'm not going to count this one. Height, greater than 10, less than 16, yes. Greater apple height, greater than 10, less than 16, yes. But why only count one? Because the count function only counts, numerical values. It doesn't count text values, right? So this is why it will not count this part. But if we go back here, for example, and change it from like C5 and say, and I want, for example, the yield, right? And then I hit enter. It looks like it's crashing on me. I don't know what's wrong with it. Okay, let's go back to the function. Okay, so here instead of putting C5, I put D5, and you can see that all of them are numbers, so it will count, and that will give me 2. Just to highlight the differences and what you might face as a problem or a logical error. Okay. The average, same idea over and over, but instead of using the sum or count, we use an average. And I'm gonna also do this. Oops. So, and here the average yield of apple trees over 10 feet high. So I only want the ones that are more than 10 feet. And then the average age of all trees in the database, right? So here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna insert, and now we're looking for the average. I'm gonna include the average. What is the database? Well, this is my database. And what is the field that I'm trying to average on? Well, I'm trying to average the yield. So I'm gonna choose yield. And then what is the criteria that I'm trying to meet? Well, there are apple trees over 10 feet high. So I only need really to choose the first 4 cells from A1 to B2. Because this will look, tree, apple, only filter apple. Height, give me only the one above 10. And then I will click OK on it. All right. So average age of all trees in the database. So this is a good example. So what if you want really include everything over there? How would you do that? Well, you can, a trick to do that is you can include the database again, right? So this will apply all the conditions. So you can make in the condition everything in the database. So again, we're gonna use the average. What is the database? This is my database. What is the criteria? Well, I'm just gonna repeat the same thing, right? And then what I'm trying to average to is age. So I'm using age over here. And I hit OK, 13 years. Okay. Another condition, another database condition is the DMAX. Same thing, we're gonna repeat. Nothing really new. I mean, you guys probably by now got the hang of it, and it makes sense. It's kind of consistent across the different functions. So we have the maximum profit of either, well, I think the English, it doesn't make much sense. I think either here or the trees with a height of 10, 16 feet or any pear tree, the pear tree in the room meets these conditions. Okay, so I think this is just either pears or apples. So not to confuse you here. Pears or apples. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, the function that I'm going to use is the dmax function. So give you the highest value. And what is my database? This is my database. What are the fields? I'm trying to find the maximum profit. So the highest profit among those different trees. So I'm going to select E1. And then what is the criteria? Well, obviously, it's going to be those 3 rows. And it gave me 96 as the highest. And I hit OK. Well, it was not in row 7. I think when I wrote this, there was like a space between it. So let's remove this portion. OK. So 96, let's double check. So this pear 96, this pear tree is 76.8, so this is out. And then amongst those who are greater than 10 or less than 16 of apples, you have this apple tree 75, and you have this doesn't really meet the conditions. So we have this, and 96 is indeed the highest. This was a quick demonstration about how to use database functions. Really neat and a great functionality and feature of Excel. Add more to the variety of functions that you've been learning about, especially when it comes to conditional functions that you want to add, that you want to apply mathematical and statistical operations with a certain criteria and conditions. I will definitely meet you in another video. Thank you for watching.